It was hard to trust him. After the on and off relationship that somehow kept afloat, you decided to cut things off, much to his dismay. For several weeks, you blocked calls, ignored his texts, and made it impossible for you two to see each other on the street. He had no idea how you accomplished that last one, but I guess you weren't lying when you said you knew everywhere he went every day, minus his hero work, of course. He stared at his phone, looking at his last text message from you, the short and sweet of, "I love you, see you soon," covered in hearts was a bigger indicator of how wrong that night truly went. It was a date night that was supposed to rival all other. After dating for 2 years, he was ready to pop the question. He loved you, and he knew his hero work, although necessary, took its toll on you. You loved him, but you couldn't help but feel lonely. He was a hero that everyone relied on, and every day he would be called in for any emergency. You were immensely proud of him and all the hard work he put in to protect the city. But when you only got to see him a couple hours out of the day, if that, you couldn't help but wish that they would call on someone else, just this once. But he knew all too well how you felt. It crushed him every night when he was called and would have to force himself out of your bed, away from your arms, and out of your apartment. He would always plan to get back quickly and apologize to you with a home-cooked breakfast. But another call would always come in, distracting him once again. But this night was supposed to be different. He had went to a superior asking for the night off, which he happily agreed to, and he texted you right away. He told you to dress in your best, use his card to get your hair and nails done, and at 7, a taxi would be waiting for you to take you to a local nearby restaurant. You had no idea why he was pulling out all the stops this time around, but you couldn't help the excitement that filled your heart. "I'm so excited! I'll get ready right now," you texted.
I can't wait to see you, beautiful.
"What should I wear?" He smiled at his screen, his heart elated at how adorable you were being right now.
You'll look gorgeous no matter what. But you know, I am a fan of blue.
"The blue velvet dress with the split up the side?" He blushed slightly, sitting back in his seat remembering the little gem of a dress you were referencing. The halter dress almost hit the floor in length, but the split hit all the way up to your hip, giving him the best view of your legs.
Yes, please.
He wanted to eagerly say, but instead went with the more subtle response.
That sounds perfect.
"I can't wait," you texted back. "I love you. See you soon." He couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. You were so cute when you were excited, and even though he didn't hear you say it, any time you said "I love you," he couldn't help the small smile that would grace his features. Everything went off without a hitch at first. He made the reservation for your favorite restaurant and took his time getting ready. He thought his standard suit would be a bit too much for this, and opted for a button-down shirt with gray slacks. As he walked over to the restaurant, he got the confirmation that the taxi had picked you up and was on the way to the restaurant. He waited at a window-side table to keep an eye out for you. The mixed array of red and white roses sat over top the table as he kept looking over the small box in his hands. He looked over the bright sparkling ring in the black box, the diamonds and sapphires glistening under the dim candlelight on the table. He smiled. He didn't second-guess his decision. He knew he was making the right one. You two had your ups and downs, but it was nothing you couldn't work through. The majority of the time you spent together, it was some of the happiest of his life. He wanted to hold on to that feeling, hold on to you, and treasure you for the rest of his days. He knew his work would eventually slow down, the recent attacks on UA making more subtle villains become more bold, but it would all die down with time. Until then, he wanted to make it absolutely clear how much you meant to him. He eagerly awaited for the taxi to pull up front. He just couldn't wait to see you, and how undoubtedly gorgeous you would look. You didn't dress up often, more so preferring for the more cute but comfy line of fashion, but you were always beautiful to him, and when you actually tried, you took his breath away, along with any willpower to keep his hands off of you. He would restrain, however, for today was going to be even more special. At least, that's what he thought before he heard a scream in the distance. He stood up, looking out the window to see a large explosion, followed by several more atop numerous buildings.
No, no, no,
He thought, sticking the ring in the bouquet of flowers and running outside. Someone was using their quirk to float multiple bombs throughout the air and sticking them to the top of any building it came into contact with. Another explosion went off shortly after the last, the result of which caused a large chunk of the building to blow apart and began to fall to the innocent people standing below. He quickly jumped into action, preventing the resulting rubble from falling on nearby people, their elated cheers erupting around him. "Thank you, All Might! You saved us!" One of the citizens spoke to him. He didn't respond, his gaze focused on something else. He threw the chunk of rubble off to the side, seeing you standing across the street, your hands folded across your torso, with the most downtrodden look on your face.
Go, and stay safe.
He spoke to the pedestrian near him. The lot of them quickly nodded their heads and scattered off. He quickly ran across the street to you, grabbing your hand and lacing it with his. Another explosion went off, and he looked off in the direction of it before looking back at you.
Liz,
His breath hitched as he saw the tears brimming your eyes, some managing to fall despite your best effort to keep them at bay. You tightened your hand around his, a small smile gracing your face. "Go," you spoke softly. His eyes widened, seeing how heartbroken you were, yet you were still telling him to protect the city.
Liz.
He pressed his forehead to yours, feeling your body shake underneath him. He desperately wanted to stay and console you, but he knew that you were right. He needed to go. The people needed him.
Please.
He whispered.
Wait for me here.
You only nodded, promising that no matter how long it took, you would wait here for him. He cradled your face in his hand, nuzzling his forehead against yours. He gritted his teeth, hating that once again he was in this situation. He ignored the ache in his heart and quickly took off, unable to look you in the eye as he ran further into the city. It had been a few hours. You didn't even bother to go inside the restaurant. You stayed outside and waited for any sign of him. You knew this wasn't his fault. You knew he had to be disappointed too, that he had to leave you like this again. But your emotions just couldn't help but to make you feel sad. It made you think, was this really all worth it? But not for your sake, for his. You knew that it had to be hard to be the #1 hero and still try to be attentive to someone in a relationship. The pressure was on him 24/7, and although you always tried your best to make sure he never felt the pressure from you, you knew he still did. He didn't want to disappoint either one. He always wanted both to be happy. How hard that must truly be to never have a break from responsibility. You never would get in the way of his hero work. You knew just how important it was to him. He told you all about One for All, how it worked, and how he was born quirkless. His life already had so many challenges that he had to overcome. He had worked so hard just to accomplish this one dream to be a hero. You couldn't forgive yourself if your being there ever got in the way of that. The world needs him more. I can't be selfish, you thought. You felt a little splash on your nose, and you looked up to the sky to see the dark clouds overhead, the ensuing downpour that immediately drenched you. You looked up, embracing the cold feel of the rain on your skin, your dress clinging to you, and your once curled hair falling and sticking to your shoulders.
Liz!
You looked over, hearing your name in the distance, and saw Toshinori walking out of the shadows, his features illuminated under a streetlight. He looked over to see you completely drenched head to toe from the rain, running over to you instantly.
You're soaked. Why didn't you stay inside?
I never went in, you admitted.
You've been standing out here since I left?
He walked up to you, a hand resting on your cheek, as you got a thorough look of the sadness across his face.
Why?
He asked. I don't know. I guess being out here gave me a chance to clear my thoughts.
Is everything okay?
Everything is fine. You hesitated, wavering under his soft gaze, but standing firm in your resolve. I just realized what I have to do now. He looked at you concerned as you took his hand in his, tears brimming your eyes. This is the end, Toshi. I'm ending it.